It happens to the best of us. One moment, the chemistry is electric, texts fly freely, and you feel like you're the center of her universe. The next, a subtle shift, a quiet withdrawal on your part, and suddenly, everything changes. You might think she'd just shrug it off, but what truly unfolds in a woman's mind when she senses your interest fading is a complex, often surprising journey. Buckle up, because we're about to delve into the fascinating, sometimes turbulent, landscape of female psychology. The subtle shift. Her radar kicks in initially. She might not even consciously register it, but a woman's intuition is a powerful, finely tuned instrument. Even the slightest alteration in your communication patterns, a slower reply, a shorter text, a sudden unavailability when she suggests meeting up, sends a faint tremor through her system. It's like an alarm bell subtly ringing in the background, difficult to ignore. At first, she might brush it off, rationalizing your distance with innocent excuses. He's probably just busy with work. Or maybe his phone died for 3 days straight. She might even find herself doing your PR work, mentally justifying your absence. Yet deep down, a feeling of unease begins to creep in. She might replay conversations in her head, meticulously dissecting past interactions, desperately trying to pinpoint what might have gone wrong, or what she might have said or done to push you away. This initial phase is often a perplexing mix of anxiety and denial, as she clings to the hope that your distance is merely temporary. Some women, driven by this burgeoning uncertainty, will instinctively react by intensifying their efforts to reconnect. They might send more frequent texts, call unexpectedly, or even subtly test your responsiveness. Others, however, opt for a silent observation, watching from a distance, gathering data before deciding their next move. As the days stretch on and the patterns of your disengagement become consistent, the stark reality of the situation begins to set in. Dismantling her initial denial, the Sherlock Holmes phase, investigation and analysis once, her initial excuses for your dwindling attention no longer hold up. She transitions into what can only be described as the FBI phase. This is where she stops rationalizing and starts actively seeking evidence. Thanks to modern technology, every woman can become a digital Sherlock Holmes with a smartphone. Your online activity becomes a crucial, often damning, trail of breadcrumbs. Did you view her Instagram story at 2 a.m., but haven't responded to her text from 6 hours ago? That's a glaring red flag. Are you actively posting on social media, liking other people's photos, even pictures with other women, while leaving her messages on read? That's a massive, undeniable red flag. Her brain, wired to abhor uncertainty, enters full-blown detective mode. Humans inherently crave patterns and closure, and your inconsistency acts as a maddening psychological puzzle she feels compelled to solve. She needs to understand what changed. This investigative phase is not just about curiosity. It's a deep-seated psychological need to bring clarity to an ambiguous situation, to find the why behind your sudden withdrawal, the counteroffensive, overcompensation and pursuit for a woman who genuinely cares or is deeply invested. The realization of your fading interest often triggers a strong counteroffensive, the overcompensation phase. This is her proactive attempt to reclaim your attention and reestablish the connection. You'll notice her putting in extra effort to be seen, heard, and desired. This often begins with a heightened focus on her physical appearance. She knows men are visual creatures. She might start dressing more provocatively, experimenting with new hairstyles or makeup, or deliberately showcasing her best features when she knows she might encounter you. This isn't just about looking good. It's a strategic move to pull your attention back. Beyond her looks, her demeanor will also shift. The woman who might have once been casual, or even a bit distant, might suddenly become remarkably agreeable, playful, and openly flirtatious. She laugh more at your jokes, even the not-so-funny ones, initiate light-hearted banter, and reminisce about shared good times, hoping to reignite the spark. She might agree to last-minute plans she would normally decline or tolerate behavior she wouldn't typically accept, all in a bid to keep you engaged. She might coincidentally pop up at your favorite gym, coffee spot, or other usual hangouts, often texting you out of the blue, bringing up random past events, or reacting to your social media stories, all as excuses to remind you of her existence. Her communication efforts will also increase. If she once waited for you to initiate, she'd now be the one texting and calling regularly, making her intentions more obvious. She might openly express a desire to spend more time with you or explicitly state how much she misses how things used to be. If she senses other women in your life, her competitive nature might kick in, leading her to intensify her efforts to stand out and position herself as the most valuable option. This includes highlighting how much she understands you or emphasizing your unique connection. While these gestures can certainly be flattering, it's crucial to recognize that her increased effort is a direct reaction to your changed behavior. Test of resolve, confrontation, and mind games. When her overcompensation and increased pursuit fail to yield the desired results, she enters a critical stage where she begins to actively test your resolve. This phase is characterized by various forms of confrontation and strategic mind games, all designed to provoke a reaction, regain control, and clarify your intentions. One common approach is the direct confrontation. She might simply ask, "Is something wrong, or are you losing interest in me?" While seemingly innocent, this is a psychological test. How you respond will determine everything. A vague or dismissive answer only intensifies her confusion and potentially fuels her pursuit. Then there's the emotional manipulator, who might use guilt or pity. "I guess I was just imagining the connection we had," often followed by a sad emoji, attempting to emotionally coerce you back into engagement. Alternatively, she might become an aggressive pursuer, resorting to double texts, triple texts, incessant calls, and social media messages, essentially demanding a response. In some extreme cases, like the woman who showed up at a guy's gym, she might even appear in your physical space, feigning a coincidental encounter to force an interaction. Beyond direct confrontation, she employs subtle, yet potent, mind games. She might act cold or distant on purpose, mirroring your withdrawal to see if you will chase her. This is a calculated move to regain the upper hand. Another classic tactic is provoking jealousy, casually mentioning other men, posting photos designed to get your attention, or subtly alluding to her other options. This aims to spark insecurity in you, pushing you to reassert your interest. She might also become more demanding or critical, picking fights over trivial matters or questioning your decisions and behaviors, all in an attempt to destabilize your resolve and pull you back into her sphere of influence. A complex mind game she might play involves creating ambiguity about her feelings. She oscillates between acting completely over you and dropping hints that she still cares. One moment, she's posting cryptic messages online or hinting at dating someone new. The next, she's sending late-night texts that suggest otherwise. The goal is to leave you confused, constantly wondering where you stand, and thus compelling you to chase her for clarity. She might also attempt to manipulate your sense of guilt or obligation, reminding you of shared moments, the effort she put into the relationship, or playing the victim to appeal to your emotions. In more extreme cases, she might even try to reassert dominance by acting dismissive or condescending, downplaying your value, mocking your choices, or highlighting her own options to undermine your self-assurance. She might reclaim control over communication by reducing her availability or canceling plans last minute, aiming to convey that she's still in charge. At the core of these behaviors lies rejection sensitivity and her self-worth. When you pull away, her brain interprets your distance as a reflection of her value. She fights back because she's fighting to restore that value, And these tests are her way of gauging whether she still has a grip on you. From a man's perspective, maintaining composure and not reacting impulsively during this phase is paramount. Giving into these games or offering mixed signals only prolongs the struggle, making everything worse. The emotional abyss, heartbreak and loneliness as she grapples with the undeniable reality of your fading interest. A woman typically plunges into an emotional roller coaster, a painful descent into a heartbreak abyss. This is not merely sadness. It's a cascade of complex emotions. First comes profound sadness, often accompanied by feelings of rejection, confusion, and a painful sense of being unattractive or unworthy. This can quickly morph into frustration. Why is this happening? Or what did I do wrong? During this volatile period, social media stalking becomes almost instinctive. She meticulously checks your online activity, scrutinizes who you're interacting with, and might even post thirst traps or cryptic messages, desperate to elicit a reaction from you. She actively seeks validation from friends, seeking reassurance, and advice, trying to decode your behavior. For some, this grief takes on a more aggressive form, manifesting as jealousy mode, where she might overtly mention other guys or post content designed to make you envious. The emotional highs and lows can be overwhelming. One moment she convinces herself she doesn't care, the next she's crying over an old message. While she might try to distract herself with work, hobbies, or social outings, the nagging thought of your fading interest lingers persistently in the background. The pain she experiences during this phase is not merely psychological. It has profound physiological roots. When a relationship ends unexpectedly, her body can perceive it as an emergency, triggering a fight or flight response. This releases stress hormones, leading to physical symptoms like muscle tension, headaches, stomach pain, and difficulty sleeping. Research reveals that the brain regions activated by physical pain are also active during heartbreak, signifying that the mental anguish is akin to actual bodily injury. The abrupt reduction in pleasure-related neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin can even induce acute craving for you and manifest symptoms resembling clinical depression. This deep-seated pain also stems from an evolutionary survival instinct. Humans are inherently social creatures, and our brains evolved to prioritize maintaining social connections. In primitive times, rejection from a group literally meant a threat to survival, while losing a partner today doesn't typically mean starvation or freezing to death. Our brains still react to the loss of a mate with intense negative emotions. Adding to this agony is the craving for explanations and closure. Her mind desperately wants to understand why the relationship is ending or why your interest has waned, not just for resolution but also to gather information to avoid similar mistakes in future relationships. However, the reasons behind a fading interest or a breakup are rarely black and white, making it incredibly difficult for her brain to process. The lack of specific information often leads to self-blame and the painful feeling that your disengagement is a reflection of her overall desirability or worth. This relentless rumination on what happened can severely hinder her recovery process. Furthermore, a woman often perceives a relationship as a significant investment of emotional energy, focus, time, and even financial resources. When that investment collapses, it feels like everything she poured into it has been wasted, adding to her sense of loss and despair. The practical shift to single life, where she suddenly has to take on responsibilities she shared, like household chores or remembering important dates, further exacerbates her distress. The loneliness she feels might not even be entirely new. Sometimes, a woman experiences a profound sense of loneliness even within a relationship if there was a lack of emotional connection or attentive communication before your interest overtly began to wane. This pre-existing emotional void, combined with your withdrawal, amplifies her suffering. The fork in the road, retaliation or disappearance, having navigated the confusing currents of your fading interest, endured the intense emotional roller coaster, and seen her efforts to regain your attention fall flat, a woman arrives at a critical juncture, the decision phase. This is where her self-preservation instinct takes over, forcing her to choose between two distinct paths. This choice, surprisingly, has less to do with how much she liked you and everything to do with her relationship with herself. Path A. The obsessed or the retaliator, often indicative of lower self-worth. For women with lower self-worth, your rejection isn't a dead end, it's a challenge. They interpret your distance as a reflection of their lack of value, leading them to believe, if I just try harder, I can change his mind. They double down on their pursuit, becoming more aggressive and persistent. This isn't just about winning you back. It's about proving their worth to themselves. If she's deeply hurt, she might enter a retaliation phase, playing mind games, deliberately ignoring you back, overtly flirting with other men in front of you, or pretending she doesn't care. These are defense mechanisms designed to regain a sense of power and control, often with the underlying goal of making you feel the same pain she did. This path is often characterized by drama, begging, and continued social media stalking, as she struggles to shift the emotional burden back onto you. Path B. The disappearer, often indicative of high self-respect. Conversely, women with high self-respect react very differently. Their mantra is, if he doesn't see my value, that's his loss. They prioritize their dignity and cut contact completely. There's no drama, no begging, and no social media stalking. They simply vanish. A high-value woman understands that begging for attention undermines her worth, so she quietly walks away. She might block you, delete your number, or swiftly move on to dating someone new, signaling clearly that she isn't waiting around. When she genuinely detaches, you may truly never hear from her again. This choice is a powerful act of self-preservation, demonstrating that her self-worth is not tied to your approval. The painful act of ghosting, suddenly ceasing all communication without explanation, is often a manifestation of this disappearer path, though it's typically initiated by the person losing interest, the man in our scenario. However, the woman might choose to ghost you back if she's on the high self-respect path, recognizing your lack of interest and deciding to end communication cleanly, albeit silently. Many individuals, both male and female, opt for ghosting because it's perceived as the easiest way to end communication, avoiding uncomfortable confrontations, explanations, or the experience of empathy or pity. While it spares the ghoster from direct discomfort, it inflicts significant pain on the person being ghosted, leaving them feeling disrespected, confused, and as if their time and emotions have been wasted. Ghosting is fundamentally a passive-aggressive and disrespectful act, and those who employ it are often unwilling to deal with their own emotions or the emotional fallout of others. It also often stems from a belief in destiny in relationships, where individuals think they need a perfect match and don't believe in the effort required to build a lasting connection. The phoenix rises, acceptance and moving on eventually. For almost every woman, a crucial stage emerges, acceptance. This is where she understands that she cannot force someone to want her or to feel something they don't. While some women emerge from this experience stronger, having realized their worth and setting higher standards for future relationships, others may take significantly longer to heal, struggling with self-doubt and endlessly questioning what went wrong. For a woman who is deeply in love, it might take months or even years to fully move on, but once she does, she often becomes emotionally unavailable to the man who lost interest. By the time he potentially realizes her worth and tries to re-engage, she no longer reacts the same way. She's done. This final phase marks genuine emotional growth, as she learns from the experience and commits to never finding herself in a similar situation again. The journey to acceptance involves several proactive steps. The first and most crucial is allowing herself to feel the emotions, to be sad, to cry, to grieve the loss without judgment. Suppressing these feelings only prolongs the healing process. She then begins to prioritize self-care and self-improvement. This means consciously investing in her well-being, ensuring adequate sleep, adopting healthy eating habits, engaging in regular exercise, and perhaps even changing her appearance with a new haircut or style. She understands that your faded interest does not define her value, and she shifts her focus from seeking your validation to affirming her own worth. A vital part of her recovery involves setting new goals and focusing on personal development. Instead of dwelling on the past, she directs her energy towards academic pursuits, career advancement, or learning new skills like a language or a hobby. Busying herself with meaningful activities reduces the time spent overthinking and grieving. She also actively seeks support from friends and family, understanding that isolating herself will only deepen her sadness. Sharing her feelings with trusted loved ones provides comfort, perspective, and a reminder that she is not alone. Crucially, she learns to avoid common pitfalls like attempting to reconcile, endlessly stalking your social media, comparing herself to your new interests, or rushing into another relationship before fully healing. She might even block your accounts to prevent herself from falling into these self-destructive patterns. Ultimately, the experience of a man losing interest becomes a powerful lesson in self-respect and emotional resilience for her. It compels her to connect with her inner strength, redefine her priorities, and embark on a new chapter of her life. By the time he might regret his departure, she has already transformed, and the story of her life no longer includes him in a significant role. The intricate dance of a woman's reactions to a man's fading interest reveals a profound interplay of intuition, self-worth, emotional depth, and a primal need for connection and clarity. From the initial tremor of confusion to the profound journey of self-discovery and acceptance, her response is never simple or predictable. It underscores the immense power dynamics at play in relationships and highlights the transformative potential of heartbreak. This experience, while painful, often serves as a pivotal turning point, not just for her, but as a mirror reflecting what both individuals truly seek in love and in themselves.